Hello and welcome to Under the Lights, the boxing talk show brought to you by Sportology TV with myself, Ali Drew. On the last episode of Under the Lights, we were joined by trainer Joe Gallagher, who was excited to tell us about Callum Smith getting the Canelo fight and all the preparations so far. But on this week's episode, we are joined by another trainer who saw his fighter Jack Massey have a great win on Saturday night. It is the Phoenix Camp's Robert Rimmer. Rob, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. So Saturday night, you were obviously in action with Jack Massey. He had a great win. Just talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was a good win. It's been a long camp for Jack. It's 14 weeks, which when we initially got told the date he was going to originally fight, there's been a number of opponents. He was scheduled to fight for the WBO European title at first. That fight was supposedly, he was being set for certain dates. The date got changed for one reason or another, and then opponents fell through. And then we tried all the way up to the death to try and get a domestic opponent. I believe there was 6 or 7 that was offered to, and every one of them turned it down. So it kind of went to the wire where we was trying to get someone credible for the 28th. And credible he was. He was a tough, durable opponent. To be fair, you know what? I didn't really know. I only got the opponent given to me, and I didn't really know too much about him. But obviously, we got to know on the night, and tactics kind of changed, But it was overall a good performance. I was happy with Jack. He's had 12 months out. It's always a worry with one of your fighters coming off a loss, how they're going to react, how they're going to be behind closed doors and stuff like that. So it's been a long, frustrating 14 weeks. But I think overall he done really well.
Yeah, because as you say, the opponent, it was a tough opponent because I saw his record and every single win he's got was by knockout, I think.
Well, do you know what's funny? The day before the weigh-in, I was in the shop. I just nipped out to go and get some little bits from the shop, and I seen David A. And I was talking to him. Now, he's asking who's the opponent, blah blah blah. So he said, he kind of looked shocked. He said he told us he knows him really well. He's been at his gym many a times. He's been over to Dubai to his gym. They've sparred rounds together. He said he was well schooled. He was durable. He's very fit, very conditioned. So I was like, oh. But then when I kind of looked into it, he is well schooled. He's been around, fought in Germany, Croatia. He's well travelled. You know what I mean? So he come with a lot of intent. And like I said, you only have to look at his knockout ratio: 16 fights, 16 wins. So that in itself, you knew that this kid could really be a danger. But that was enough to keep Jack on his toes and to box smart. So we approached it in a way where I didn't really want Jack to hold his feet and sit inside with him more, box at range, keep him on the end of the jab, frustrate him. And then that's what he did.
The cruiserweight division domestically is very strong. As you say, you try to get a domestic opponent. So what is next for Jack? Obviously, you said a lot of the opponents didn't want the fight. So what's next for him?
Yeah, well, like you say, I can only go off what I'm being told, via the management, and the management speaking to Frank Warren's office and stuff like that. So I can tell you now, I don't really have to mention names, but there was 6 or 7 opponents all in that domestic division in the top 10 who the fight was offered to. And I'd say everyone turned it down. It's not a coincidence that every single one's turning it down with an injury or they're not ready or this or whatever. But they all turned it down. So, moving forward, the initial plan was, to get Jack out on this show. And, we wanted to try and make a big statement moving forward. But it didn't happen that way, and he'd done the 8 rounds. And I think, to be honest, that's put him in good stead because what they've got planned. So we're probably going to look to get out February time. We're in no rush whatsoever now. I think, Jack will probably push into a mandatory position for the British title again. So maybe get out February, have a look what's on the table. It's going to be for a title, maybe an international title, WBO European or something of that kind. I'm not too sure yet until I find out a little bit more information this week. But Jack's never really had the chance to get momentum. Where now he's got that now. He's done a tough 8 rounds with a tough, durable opponent, a live opponent, someone that can whack. He tested Jack a few times, so it's all tick, tick, tick. So we move into February, hopefully get a 10-rounder, and then I'd say April, May in the summer, Chris Billam-Smith or a Tommy McCarthy or someone like that, you know, who's got these belts. And that's basically where we'll be going with it.
Because the last fight that Jack had was obviously his loss to Riakporhe. He obviously vacated the belt. An unusual move, I think. I don't know if we don't know yet why he's made that move.
Listen, you know what? It's been a talking topic on everybody's mind. I mean, I discussed it down this week in the bubble with a few people, and everyone's scratching their heads as to why. I just don't clearly understand why, because, you know, McCarthy's got the European title. He stopped McCarthy. You know, why he's not defended against Billam-Smith, I don't know. So to vacate that without any other options, it just seems absolutely crazy. So he's either one or two things. He's either got something else lined up, which can only be a world title, which anything happens in this game nowadays, but that's the only other option you can think of. He's got a world title shot lined up. Or is he something more sinister? Is he going to box again? Because, you know, I know he was managed by Dillian Whyte, and Dillian Whyte fought on a matchroom show against Povetkin, and normally fighters who are managed by Dillian Whyte have always got a slot on his card, and we didn't see him on there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does next.
Well, this year's been a bit crazy. Obviously, all the shows have been behind closed doors. There wasn't boxing for a long time. How have you found this sort of year with your fighters? Obviously, you were out of the gym for a long time. And then since returning, I think you've had Chaz Schofield had to pull out of the boxer tournament because of a COVID-19 test.
Yeah, so that was another frustrating one because, you know, he was due to fight in the Ultimate Boxer. And numerous things happened with that, from opponents pulling out, so dates having to be rescheduled. And then he got COVID, I got COVID, but we was both really, really poorly with it. Like I was in bed for like just short of 2 weeks. He was the same. So leading up to that fight, there was never, you know, a chance that he was going to be ready. You know, it really hit him hard. So I took the decision to pull him from that. He's back in the gym now, ticking over, and hopefully, you know, he'll get a date soon.
How have you found this whole period of training, then having to close, then, you know, back to it, and also that obviously no crowds, you know, experiencing the no crowds and behind closed doors?
Well, the training, I mean, it's very hard to keep the lads motivated, especially when they've got no dates and the other lads who are coming through. So it's just a case of, you know, trying to keep a little bit of momentum, a little bit of routine in the gym, getting when we can. Because a lot of them as well, they don't live local to the gym. You know, some of them travel an hour, some of them travel from Wales to come to my gym. So that's all costings, it's money, which you're totally getting in at this time of the year. So it's just kind of my job to keep them all focused, keep a little bit of momentum, keep doing what we're doing, and that's the main thing. But then, I mean, behind closed doors, I've watched a number of fights behind closed doors, and I can only say now that that's why I really, really hope that things do change and crowds come back fast, because the experience from the other night was just weird. And listen, I take me out to any fighter that takes the opportunity to get in there, especially these ones. I mean, you only have to look at the football and other sports. You know, you look at the Premier League, and there's a lot of top teams underperforming, right? And the lower teams are turning them over. It's suiting them, you know, and it's same in boxing. You look back right the way through fight camp with Matchroom, some of the front morning shows. There's so many upsets that have been happening. Ones that probably there was a crowd there, it wouldn't have happened, because it has so much of an effect. And I think you really do kind of see it now. Like the other night, it was kind of eerie. You can hear everything. It's just an absolute dead atmosphere. So sometimes it could be, you know, the fight's going a certain way, or it's flat, like, or your fighter could be in the last 20 seconds of a round, or it could be mid-rounds, and he lands a good shot. You respond to the crowd. The crowd just kind of just lifts, and that adrenaline, I just think, you know, it makes a fight, whereas without a crowd, I wouldn't like to do it again anyway.
Hopefully crowds. Well, they're saying maybe next week, when England are out of lockdown, they're hoping a few thousand can go to the shows, I guess, as of this weekend, but I'm not sure.
No, this week, I'm sure this weekend. I know that the Linden Arthur and Yarde fight, I think they're going to allow so many people back there, but that venue's tiny as well, so it should look quite busy.
Yeah, it's almost better if it's a smaller venue, because then they'll fit it a bit more.
Yeah, hopefully. So that's it. You need that crowd back, because that atmosphere is so important.
Well, the main fight, obviously, on Saturday night was Daniel Dubois, Joyce. I think they didn't want to do that fight behind closed doors, so it was a week too early, but it happened. A lot of people were surprised by the results. Obviously, Joyce got the stoppage in the 10th round. What did you make of that fight and both their performances?
I think Joyce was absolutely exceptional. You know, he's shown his class, his experience. I think leading up to the fight, I think everyone absolutely wrote him off. You only had to look at the bookies. They absolutely wrote him off. But you got to look at his credentials and what he's won and who he's been in with and who he's beat. You know, and you'd be fooled to write somebody off like that. Just because of his style, he's unorthodox. But honestly, that guy is, without being disrespected, an absolute freak. To walk through them shots of someone who hits so hard like Dubois and not be scathed one bit and not lose control and just kept coming and coming and coming. And you know what? If you watch what he was doing, he was smart. He was riding shots. He was, you know, he was staying away from that right hand all the way through. He remained focused and he did what he had to do. But I just think Dubois, you know, he's young, he's big, he's strong. I think he's been so used to hitting people and bowling people over that this time round, everybody was saying, you know, if he lands early, you know, that's it, it's over for Joyce. And if Joyce continues in the later half of the fight, it's Joyce's fight. But from round one, for me, I mean, I know the scorecards after the judges said, I mean, one judge had it 8 rounds to Dubois, madness. One had Joyce up 2 rounds, I think, and one had Dubois up. I mean, I think you could score either way. But I just think from them early rounds when Dubois, he caught him flush with some big, big shots. And, you know, I just think he was that disheartened by thinking, wow, what is this guy? You could see when he went back to the corner and his trainer said to him, you know, this is the fight game. Now you're in a fight. You know, you really need to get going. And I just think, my personal opinion, I think he quit. I think that he's threw the kitchen sink at him. Nothing was happening for him. And yeah, he couldn't see out of that left eye. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. Just to go down on one knee so easily, you know, let your corner do that. Let your corner pull you out, or you know, go out on your shield. You know, but again, you know, he fights for another day, and he'll be back big and strong. He'll be a world champion 100%. You know, he's 23. It's madness.
It is crazy how much Joyce was actually written off. And also what I found surprising is they're both obviously they're promoted by Frank Warren, but it was like Joyce was the away fighter. Like that's what he was sort of being. It was all Dubois. You know, he was the home fighter, and Joyce was like the one coming in, even though Frank obviously promotes them both.
Yeah, well, that's it as well. And not only with that comes pressure. You know, with that comes pressure, and everybody's talking about what comes after it. You know, and this and that. Well, that's a decision that they made, and you know, they made it happen. And whether the fight was too soon or this is all these questions will go on forever and ever. But they made the fight happen, so you've got to take your hat to both fighters. But one thing's for sure, he will be back to Dubois, no doubt about it. You know, he's a growing man still. He's only going to mature as a fighter. And Joyce, I think he just deserves all the credit in the world. Again, he was wrote off. He wasn't fazed by it. You know, I watched him all for the last week, super relaxed, both of them. It was like a walk in the park. And you watch him going back to that corner, it was like a spar for him. He was unscathed. He didn't have a mark.
Calm. This corner was so calm.
And you know what? He's an absolute beast. He's huge, you know, and so athletic, so fit. He looked like he could do another 15 rounds.
Yeah, he did.
So that in itself, I don't care. All these heavyweights out there will be like, you know, they'll be because he's just, for me, he's just a freak. Yeah, I don't know how someone can take them shots and continue to keep walking forward.
Yeah, just no reaction on his face either. Just literally taking the shot as if it didn't happen.
It's nothing. It was just like, yeah, okay, come again. Yeah, come on. It's crazy.
I know, it was amazing. It was amazing. Well, looking ahead to this weekend, and there's a couple of shows on. So I think Friday we've got Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray. And then Saturday, the main fight, Lyndon Arthur, Anthony Yarde. So just give me your sort of predictions and thoughts on those fights.
Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray. I just think stylistically it's all made for Billy Joe Saunders to look unbelievable, which he is. Everybody knows he's an unbelievable fighter. I've watched him firsthand in action. I've watched him spar. His ring IQ is such a talented fighter. Martin Murray, You know, he's got a lot of credentials, been there at world level, tough as they come. And I'm sure, you know, he'll give Billy Joe a run for his money. But I just see, you know, it's a mountain to climb for Martin, two top lads. But I just think for me, Billy Joe Saunders is just way too fresh, way too skilled. And with the styles, Martin Murray come forward, tucks up, he's made for Billy Joe's style. So I'm going to go Billy Joe with that one.
And what about the Yarde after fight?
It's, for me, it's an interesting one, a really interesting one. You know, again, I've had one of my lads sparring with Lyndon during this one, and I could honestly say he looks sharp. He looks sharp. Lyndon sometimes, you know, throws a lot of single shots, got a fantastic jab, but from what I've seen this time round, putting his shots together in bunches, he's moving. He looks really, really good. So I don't want to sit on the fence. And look, I'd love for Lyndon Arthur to win. He's from Manchester, the local. I know Pat and all. I know everybody in there, Jim, and I'd love for Lyndon to come out victorious in that one. But I just think it is a tough fight. I think you can argue on both sides. He's just got to be able to keep Yarde off, because if you can't keep Yarde off, then I think you're in trouble. But I don't want to sit on the fence. I can't. I'm going to say Lyndon Arthur.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, we have to have a decision. Last week, Joe Gallagher. Every time I asked him a prediction, he was like, "What do you think?" I was like, "No, the interview isn't for me." So don't ask me. The week after is Anthony Joshua returning to the ring with against Pulev. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that there could be any potential upset there?
Do you know what? In that heavyweight boxing, look at Joyce, Dubois. Everyone thought it was one-sided.
And White Beckin as well.
Yeah, there's another one. Listen, and honestly, you know, behind them closed doors, it affects everybody differently. Each fighter, it will affect differently. And, you know, with that fight, you'd expect Joshua to come victorious, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. But I just think in them circumstances, anything can happen. Pulev's got no pressure on his shoulders. You know, he's well schooled. He's had one loss, I think, against Klitschko back in 2014. You know, so he's been in with, you know, I think he went the distance with Yuri Fiora. So he's all round. But the only thing is, he's got age, and you know, he's 39, I think. I think Joshua is just going to be way too strong. I see a Joshua stoppage in that fight.
And then I think the last fight before Christmas is the Callum Smith-Canelo fight. Finally happening. Obviously, Canelo's had talk of a few different opponents. Billy Joe was meant to be in May time, I think. They got cancelled. How pleased are you that Callum Smith has got that fight, and how do you see it going?
Oh, delighted for him. Callum Smith's just, you know, super talent. You know, he's just an humble, chill guy. Just does his work. You don't really hear of him on social media, trash talking or none of this. You know, he's probably been through a whirlwind himself. He's kept patient, and now he's got his reward. And I think he'll love nothing more than doing a number on Canelo, as he done one on Beaver. So, listen, I think the whole of the UK will be behind Callum Smith. I'd love for him to win. Absolutely love for him to win. But again, it's a big ask. But, you know, in that fight, stylistically, again, everyone's saying, he's made for Canelo. But Callum Smith's a very, very smart fighter. And he's an absolute giant for the weight, which, you know, could play right into his hands. He's got a great jab. His shot selection's fantastic. He just does everything correct. But then you've got Canelo, who's just an all-round superstar. You know, he can nullify you early on, and he can close the range. And that's that. In that fight, if he can close the range with Callum Smith, then he's going to have serious problems. But then if Callum can keep him at that range behind his jab and pick him off with effect, then fingers crossed, he could do him. But no, I'm excited for that one. It's going to be a really good fight. It's
good. It's finally happening. It has been a long time coming. And before we finish, I just want to look ahead, potentially 2021, the big fight. AJ Fury hopefully is going to happen. Hopefully, obviously, it won't happen if it's behind closed doors. So hopefully, we'll have crowds properly back. obviously everyone wants it to happen. So how excited are you for that to actually happen? And how do you think it will go?
I think that's a fight that's a must. It's got to happen. Whether either of them have got to vacate titles or whatever, to make that fight happen and happen in its prime, like there's no better time to do it. But again, arguments for both, you know. But for me, there's only one winner at that fight, and that's Tyson Fury. He's just too skilled. I just think he has too much. Joshua is, you know, he's quite orthodox where, you know, he throws the same shots. But I just think Tyson Fury, well, again, was too skilled. He'll just take him apart. Box move. You know, I can see Tyson Fury stopping him. I really do. In the later rounds, I really do.
That's a big statement.
Yeah, 100%. I do. I think because Joshua, he's always going to be dangerous early on. If he can land. If he can land. That's the question with Fury. Can you land that shot on him? He's so smart. You know, he rides shots, the way he catches shots. And he can frustrate you.
And we've seen him get up from big shots as well. When Wilder...
Well, there you go.
Just he looked out and then he got up and continued.
Yeah, against the biggest hitting heavyweight out there. So he'd be dangerous for early on. But I just think Fury all round, he's just got bags and bags of confidence. But what a fight. What a fight for the undisputed. Unbelievable. But I'm Fury all the way. I love him. I think he's great. I think he's absolutely great.
The icing on the cake would be if it happens in the UK. Don't know if it will, but it would be great if it did.
It would be. Money talks. Money talks. I can't see it. I reckon they might have the first one in somewhere like Saudi or the Far East, and then maybe the return here, the UK.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
Yeah, cash in there and have the rematch here.
That would be good. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great speaking to you. And hopefully speak to you again once your fighters are back in action. Fingers crossed with crowds again.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully by next year we'll get all the crowds back and get everything back in normal working order. Yeah. We need it. We need it fast. So hopefully Boris sorts himself out.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Nice speaking to you.
And you. Guys, great to be joined there by Rob Rimmer from the Phoenix camp after his fighters Jack Massey's great win on the weekend. But make sure you stay tuned. We have lots more planned, lots more great guests who are lined up. Please support the channel, subscribe, leave some comments, like, share, do what you can to help us grow, and we will keep bringing you great content. But yeah, stay tuned and we will see you next time.